This game broke me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's gonna get real. It's gonna get real right now. Get ready, it's gonna get real. Have you ever experienced something, whether it's a movie or a TV show or music or maybe somebody, an experience, just anything, where at the end of it, you just have to kind of sit there and process what you just saw in a good way? That happened to me like 3 nights ago when I beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I have no notes for this. There's not even like a little bulletin board in front of me of things that I need to talk about. There's nothing. This video's totally raw. Just me and the camera. So I gotta talk about this game right here, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because like I said at the beginning of the video, I had to, when the credits rolled and I exited the main menu of the game, turned off the PS5, turned off my monitors and my computer, I just sat there for like 5 minutes just thinking to myself, I just played an unbelievable, almost unbeatable gaming experience. I couldn't play video games for like a few days after I played it because it was so rewarding of an experience that I had to just like take a step away from games. You know what I mean? It's almost like I didn't know what to do with myself. So first of all, historically, just real quick, I am not a big JRPG kind of guy. I'm not even a big RPG guy in general. And my bread and butter is very much story-driven first-person shooters. That is my bag because, you know, for example, Half-Life is my favorite video game franchise of all time. And throughout your life, even not just with games, but with like music and movies, you kind of just hear through, you know, whether it's the internet or just people or word of mouth, that you hear about these things that are considered the greatest of all time or even the worst of all time, but in this case, the greatest of all time. And you kind of just make a mental note of that and you take that throughout your life. Final Fantasy VII was one of those games that just every now and then I would hear, you know, oh, Final Fantasy VII is one of the best games of all time. It's my favorite game of all time. It's one of my favorite games of all time, that kind of thing. And so I always had this kind of curiosity because my dad and I, who are video gamers, we both are in the same camp that when we hear that something is critically acclaimed and like, you know, universally acclaimed even, and one of the best games of all time, oh my God, you got to play it, our ears perk up a little bit. We're like, Maybe we should give that a chance. It took a long time for me to get around to Final Fantasy VII. I always knew I kind of wanted to try it out one day, but I wasn't that interested in it until finally recently I was like, all right, you know what? We're going to give this a shot. And I played Remake, and Remake is really good. Really, really, really good. I know a lot of people are like, it's too linear and, you know, or like the side quests are very repetitive. For me, I never have a problem with the game being too linear because maybe I'm just bad at games, but I like when the story is like boom, 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 boom. And I'm not a super duper big side quest guy, unless it's like mission critical. Hey, you should do this side quest. So I guess in essence, this is like my review, but it's not really a review. This is just me venting about, in a good way, about how good the game is. And yeah, I mean, where do I even begin? This game is like a literal work of art. And if somebody said this is one of the best games ever made, or this is their favorite game of all time, no problem. I totally get it. For me, this has already landed in my guaranteed top 20, maybe even top 15. Will it break through to the top 10 of all time for me personally? Only time will tell, and we'll get to that towards the end of the video. But yeah, I gotta say, man, the writing, the dialogue, the characters, the interactions with the characters, the relationships, the setting, the graphics, the overall content. There's so much content, which I'll admit I didn't do all the content because I was so enthralled by the main story that I only did maybe a few side quests, some critical ones. But man, the characters, the story, the graphics, I will say this is one of the best looking games I've ever played. It's easily top 3 best looking games I've ever played. I would say the others are like Half-Life Alyx, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I don't know what the third one would be. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, everything about this game is just amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So now into the more detailed aspects. I'll tell you, this is the thing that broke me. This is where we're getting to some real stuff. So there's 2 events in this game. By the way, this is a spoiler section. If you have not played the game, do not keep watching, please. Please don't, because there are some big time topics that if you don't want to be spoiled, don't go any further. So towards the end of the game, I believe in chapter 13, where everyone enters the ancient temple, and they all have their trials. All the squad members have their trials, except Cloud, but he gets his trial a little bit after. But everyone has their trials, and man, it is so elegantly written, and you feel for all these characters and all these trials, and but the big one that made me tear up was Aerith's trial, which I believe, was that the last one? I think it was. The bit where, she's a little girl and her mom is dying in the street, and she has to go look for, someone to help her, and she can't find anybody, and she returns back and she says something like, I really tried, and the mom is like dying there, and her new mom comes in and is basically trying to get her to go on the train, and she's like, no, you can't leave, don't leave, and stuff like that. She's dying. Oh my god, I don't care who you are, if you're the most, the bravest, most stone-faced, stoic person alive, dude, that part was rough. That made me almost tearing up, and my throat got all lumpy and horrible, and I was like, ugh. The second thing that made me tear up is the ending cutscene, which we'll go talk about the ending right after this. But man, that ending cutscene where the plane flies away and Aerith says goodbye, and it fades to black, no promises await. It starts playing the song that she sung in chapter 12. Get out of town. That was wow. Again, teary-eyed. There wasn't a drop that fell out off my face, but I got super watery. Again, the throat got all horrible and lumpy and bad, and it was like, All right, now let's get to the big topic. The big elephant in the room. That ending in Rebirth. Now, I did not play the original Final Fantasy VII. I went straight to the remake and played Rebirth immediately after. And from what I've seen, this ending is extremely controversial, brings up a lot of questions that we don't have answers to yet, and we don't really know what happened to Aerith. Did she die? Did she not die? What's going on? So I just want to talk about that real quick. And here's the thing. I absolutely loved the ending. I thought the ending was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was mysterious. It made you question a lot of things. And it was like, there's so much mystery and intrigue involved. Is Aerith dead? Is she not? Why is Zack phasing in and out of, worlds and stuff, and going to, a bunch of stuff's going on. A lot of crazy stuff, as far as I understand, because I did not play the original game, like I said. So this was, as far as I knew at that time, that was the story. This is how Final Fantasy VII was. But now, doing my research, I now know that they've changed a lot from the original Final Fantasy VII. And you know what, though? I like that. Because if it was just a one-to-one remake, maybe Aerith's death wouldn't have had the same impact that it did now than originally. It wouldn't have had that same thing as like, oh yeah, okay, this is her death. It's sad, but we knew this was coming. And so they switch it up. We don't know if she died yet, but the thing is, it's all going to pay off in the third game, the final part 3. And this is what I think a lot of people who maybe have a problem with the ending because it changed so much. I found in doing my research that a lot of the people that were unhappy with the ending were old players, people that had played the original Final Fantasy VII and were going into this game with the knowledge of the original. For new players, Remake and Rebirth is their first Final Fantasy VII experience, and the Rebirth ending is just, that's how it ends, and it's sad. So it appeals more to new players because they don't know maybe what happens in the original game. So the Rebirth ending is just, oh, this is really sad, this is the ending. But the people that maybe are confused and they don't like the ending of Rebirth are the old players. And this all boils down to, this game is a setup for part 3. So what I mean by that is, this game, Rebirth, its legacy will be changed if they stick the landing in part 3. If everything pays off and all the questions are answered and everything's solved, you know, all these mysteries and this kind of, you know, worlds that's going on with Sephiroth, if it all pays off and they stick the landing in part 3, part 2's reputation will go even higher than it already is, and part 3 will be fantastic. However, if they don't stick the landing with part 3 and it blows up and it's, you know, it's not a satisfying conclusion for anybody, not only will part 3's reputation just, you know, obviously be tarnished, but part 2's legacy will also be tarnished because we'll be looking back, and this is where, you know, this is ground zero pretty much for all the big stuff that happens. So my message to all the people who maybe don't like the ending, I think they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Don't worry. It's gonna pay off, I think. It's gonna be a roller coaster of emotion. The part 3 is gonna be a bullet train. It's gonna be huge. But whether they stick the landing or not, we'll have to see. I just had to let it all out and tell you about this borderline life-changing gaming experience that I had. It was, I so recommend Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's absolutely my game of the year, and it's the best game that I've played in the last 4.5 years. Absolutely it is. It is fantastic. I think this game is it's a generational game. Looking back, maybe years from now, we'll think, you know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was one of the, like, generational pillars of that era of gaming, and it's definitely one of the most richest, rewarding video game experiences I think I've ever had. Play this game. Well, first play Remake, and then play this, and it's a really great 1-2 punch. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the stronger game. It's more open, more to do. I think the dialogue and the mouth animations are better, if you know what I mean, because in Remake sometimes the dialogue doesn't match up with the vocals, but you gotta play this game. It's fantastic. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you sticking to the end. And yes, bring on part 3. I am absolutely on the Final Fantasy VII Part 3 train, because I am so excited to see how this ends in, I would assume, 2027. So thank you everybody very much for watching. And yeah, I am now a Final Fantasy VII fan, man. I love it. So thank you everybody very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.